He is a producer, professor, award-winning speaker, business strategist, and national best-selling author of The Trust Edge. And today, we are so thrilled to have him with us. We want to welcome to the stage Dave HORSAGER. Good morning, Dave.
I love the farm idea, you know. I grew up on 1,500 acres. Has anybody heard of Verndale, Minnesota? Oh my goodness! 3 people! That's 500 people live there. Our farm is 8 miles north of Verndale in truly nowhere, Minnesota. But it's a beautiful farm. My 84-year-old dad and mom still run it. But anyway, let's start with a few questions. How many of you are parents? Or ever had parents? Pretty much everybody. I've got 4 kiddos. I'm grateful for that. When I get home from a business trip or speaking or something like that, they often greet me at the door, and I'm grateful. I still have a little one, 4 just turned 5-year-old. He runs up to me, and he shouts the same thing almost every time. Sticky fingers, probably peanut butter on his hands, comes up, pulls out my suit pant leg. Daddy, throw me up in the air really high. Does anybody have a grandkid or a daughter or son like that? Love to get thrown up in the air? Yes. They love to get thrown, don't they? Daddy, throw him in the air really high. So I do. And most of the time I catch him. No, he trusts his daddy to catch him every time, doesn't he? One breach of trust and what would happen? He would never ask again. When I started the research over a decade ago around trust, 2 major findings. Fundamentally, number 1, a lack of trust is your biggest expense. The biggest cost you have, think about this. For the trusted brand, you'll pay more. You'll come back. You'll tell others. The trusted leader gets followed or voted for. The trusted salesperson gets bought from in spite of price almost every time. The trusted teacher, professor, or manager is respected. If you think trust is just a soft skill, ask Lance Armstrong. Or Tiger Woods. Think of Tiger. 27 breaches of trust. And he lost millions in weeks, hundreds of millions by now. Penn State's projected to lose $1 billion over the next decade because of a breach of trust. Your credit score is really just a trust score. The more you trust a lender, the less you pay over the course of the loan. Isn't that right? Talk to my mortgage broker. Right now on a little $200,000 home in Minnesota, if you had just a little higher score, you could still get the loan, but a little higher score, you'd pay $200,000. You'd pay $113,000 more for that home over the course of the loan because of your low trust with the lender. I was honored this year to be the commencement speaker at my university. Grateful for that. Went back on campus, took my kids before I spoke at commencement, and I showed them. You know the first thing I showed them? My P.O. box. Cool dad. You know it's in the same place as it was 22 years ago? It's got the same number on it, 681. It's there in the midst of the hundreds of P.O. boxes. But today it's different. One difference. It's got a what on it? A what? A combination. A lock, right? What's the cost? A few bucks for the lock? What's the real cost? Trust, and that equaled the cost of time. Now, instead of just going and getting I scrape plates freshman year to get $3.10 an hour or whatever it was, and get my check every Friday, or when I go to get my calculus grades, or when I go hope for that love note from that sophomore, I can't just grab it. I got a thumb combination lock. The cost is time. Let me show you what happens very briefly. There's my son. I know some of you are like my wife. Too high! When I say trust this, shout this out really quick. We have a short time. When I say that, there's different pictures that come to mind. What are some words that come to mind? Shout some words out. Integrity. What else? Reliable. What else? Consistency and true or truthful. Loyal. Belief. All kinds of pictures come to people's mind when I say the word trust. Different pictures come to mind. Guys, this is a picture of trust. Now, my sons understand trust. I walked into the restroom. The stall was not available. After I died laughing, I took this picture. But you got to admit, they trust each other. That's the 4-year-old on top. Even animals have a perspective of trust. We define it this way. Trust is a confident belief in a person or product or an organization. This isn't motivational anything. I know you can learn some places how to lose 50 pounds in a week and make $1 million in a month. Trust isn't like that, but it is the only way I know to real, genuine success at anything. Salesperson, professor, parent, or friend. From the research, when I started my graduate research on this, and now we put out, some of you know, we published for CEOs the Trust Trends, annual Trust Trends report that looks at the global trends and puts the 8-pillar framework against those trends and talks about the impact of trust in the world. It's interesting, when I started the research, no one was talking about it. Now what Forbes called trust the business word of the year this year. Best Places to Work said, our number one metrics for a best place to work is going to now become trust, how much they trust their employees. The word of the 90s, engagement, and now the number one metrics of the 26 matrices is how do we get engagement? Well, it turns out they found it was trust. It's interesting to see what's happened with this word, and yet I can't speak about anything else. Not just from the graduate research, but now we continue our research on it, and we found this. Hundreds of leaders and thousands of organizations that we researched every single time, when trust went up just a little bit, output, morale, retention, innovation, loyalty went up. Time to get anything done, costs, attrition, which costs more than people think, all went down. Every single time. When you have this thing called trust, you have the greatest advantage, we believe, of all time. We call it the trust edge. Now, the first part of the research found a lack of trust is your biggest cost in life. Second part of the research found the 8-pillar framework, the 8 uniquenesses. Of course, they weren't pillars from the research. They just came out of the research, and these 8 uniquenesses of those that are most trusted. I call them pillars today, and I call them pillars in the book because they hold up the greatest advantage, I think, this advantage of being trusted. That's what I talk about, and that's all I talk about. Whether I'm talking to Congress or the Yankees or Wells Fargo, whoever it is, I talk only about this and the 8-pillar framework. So today you have a little bit of the case of trust, the 8-pillar framework. If you would like more on the 8-pillar framework, we're going to give away all the national bestsellers. Anybody wants one, they'll be back there at 2:30. If you would like specifics, like the DMA strategy, comes under the clarity pillar. It's something salespeople have written to us and said it tripled their sales in 90 days. If you would like the 90-day quick plan, comes under one of the pillars. That's the basic strategy I used to lose 50 pounds in 5 months. Some of you saw me a couple years ago, and you know. But how I lost 50 pounds in 5 months, it's the same strategy we used to double our company in a year. I'm not going to be a fit for many of you, likely, but if you would like any of those things, and if they would help your meeting planner, as a meeting planner or personally, we've had people say one of the ideas saved their marriage. We've had people say it tripled their sales. I don't care what it does. I'm passionate about it. I love it. And I believe in it. And if you would like any of those things for free, and you say, I don't want to talk to them because they might want me to speak. Just grab the free stuff. Ryan's back there. The trusted, you want to talk about trusted brand. He fits the brand of trust. So I hope you get to meet him. Don't you, though? Why don't you trust someone? Think about this for a second. At your table, get about, take 10 seconds. Talk to each other. Why don't you trust someone? Why won't you go back to that restaurant? Take 10 seconds, talk to the people at your table. I'm going to ask you. Okay, that's around 10 seconds. Why don't you trust someone right up here? All right, Bot's table, what do you got? Lack of follow-through. What do you got over here? Let's say, think them, what they said. Let's be creative. Okay. What do you got here? Bad food, bad odor too, right? All kinds of things. Okay, let me help you out. They let you down before. All kinds of reasons we don't trust. We don't trust the arrogant. How many of you know a know-it-all? How many sit next to one right now? When I taught leadership at one of the country's finest military academies, I think I was talking to some of the best, brightest, and bravest young men and women in our country. Biggest problem for a few of them? They thought they were. We don't trust people that say, just trust me. Because trust is not stated, trust is earned. Or the guy who says, let me be honest with you. What have you been for the last half hour, dude? Right? Someone says literally or honestly every other sentence, we don't trust them. All right. it's time. So, for the Pillars of Trust, 4 great reasons to have me come to your event. There they are. And my hope for you is that you would gain and earn and own the greatest advantage, I believe, of all time, personally and professionally. That's something we call the Trust Edge. Have a great day.